It is a great pleasure for me to have Danny from Osaka, Japan, in my new series around the world with wrestling fans. Hi, Danny. Thank you for
Hello,
accepting
hello,
my
Hassan.
request.
Thank you for having me on your show.
It's always good to talk with wrestling fans, especially in Japan. You guys have a very big history and legacy of wrestling.
Yes, we do. We have a very intense, a lot of wrestling history going back to almost 50 years, 50, 60 years, back to the days of Ricky Dozan.
That's right. When I was preparing for the interview, and I went through your Facebook profile,
Uh huh.
and you seem to be like having pictures with wrestlers since you was a child. Tell
Yes,
us
I
about
was.
how,
The earliest picture I took with a wrestler was maybe 7 or 6 years old, I think.
with whom was
Mm.
it?
The earliest memory I remember was Abdullah the Butcher.
Wow.
Yes. This
One,
was back in New York City because I used to live in the United States for 16 years, and my father he would sometimes go film for the Japanese wrestling magazines, and I would go with him to different shows in the United States and Japan, and I would get to meet all of the wrestlers.
wow, tell us about your father a little bit. Was he like involved in the wrestling business as you were saying?
Yes, he was involved in actually after the Misawa and the Noah split in All Japan in 2000. He worked for a filming company, and he asked Giant Baba's wife, Mrs. Baba, if he could get a position for the video producing so they could get the All Japan back on TV again. And he
Okay.
worked with All Japan for maybe 5 years, I think, before he quit. And they went back to the Gawara or Samurai TV, how it is right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is very interesting. So he must be the one who got you into wrestling, right?
Yes, obviously. If it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't have been a wrestling fan today.
What was your earliest memory of watching wrestling? When was it?
Probably going to the Korakuen Hall and the Budokan, the All Japan shows. Oh yes, the earliest memory was I think I was 5 years old, and from I don't remember a lot in person, but from my memory, my father told me I saw the very last match of Giant Baba, which was in December of 1998.
Wow, awesome.
Yes,
So you was live in that show or did you watch it on TV?
I was live in that show, but I saw it on YouTube and I thought, oh, this looks familiar, and then I realized, oh, I was at this show when I was a kid.
This is pretty cool. Actually, Giant Baba is one of my favorite wrestlers, and I
Yes.
think he's pretty much underrated because in the 60s and 70s,
Uh
he
huh.
used to really could go in the ring like he
Oh
had a
yes, he
pretty
could.
good technical wrestlers and having great matches.
Yes. His matches with Fritz Bonerick, Jin Kiniski, and Bobo Brazil were one of the historical matches in Japanese wrestling history.
True, and I think he won the NWA title from Harley Race as well.
He won against Jack Briscoe.
Oh, was it Jack Briscoe?
It was Jack Briscoe, yes, in Kagoshima.
So he had the three title runs, right?
I think so. The NWA and the PWF, and I think the international heavyweight title, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Looking back, who is he like? Who do you like more, Antonio Inoki or Giant Baba?
Oh, as my father, he was always well back in the olden days. I should say this. It was a split between the All Japan fans and the New Japan fans. So if you're a fan of All Japan, he would be on Baba's side, and if you're a New
Right.
Japan fan, he would be on Inoki's side. So it was a huge split right down the middle. And my father was at Baba's side, so I probably prefer All Japan more than New Japan.
Right.
Even though now it's the opposite, New Japan is more popular now than All Japan, but I still support All
Yes.
Japan though. It's easier to go see the shows because New Japan, most of the tickets get sold out very easily, so I can't go see them live.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's awesome to have variety of promotions
Yes, it
like
is.
it used to be in US, like when you have WWF and WCW, two
Yes,
big promotions. It's like for the better for the business.
yes, it is. And also in
Actually,
Japan, there's a variety of wrestling styles. Like you got lucha style, you have a hardcore style like Big Japan, and women's wrestling too by itself.
How big is wrestling, would you say, like in Japan comparing to other sports? Is it the number, like in which order wrestling would come?
Probably the most, if it's sports wise, probably baseball is the most popular sports. Then after it's probably, I think, sumo wrestling, and then soccer. Maybe wrestling is gonna come maybe fourth, number four in the
That's
order
not
of the
bad.
biggest sports in Japan.
That's not bad. And
Yes.
actually, like I visited Japan twice, obviously to
Uh-huh.
go to wrestling shows, and I really loved the energy and the respect people had for wrestling.
Oh, yeah. The
What
fans
would
they
you
get
say?
very passionate when they go to the live wrestling shows here.
What would you say? Obviously, you went to a wrestling show in America because you was living there. What's the difference between Japanese fans and, let's say, fans from Canada and US?
I feel like Japanese fans are more respectful when they go to the show. They're quiet, and they chant and they applaud in the right time. American fans, from the start of the show to the end of the show, all they do is chant, 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 and they never stop.
Right.
Yeah.
I honestly prefer the Japanese fans because I think they treat wrestling as a sport.
Yes,
It's
they
more
do.
legit. Sometimes, and like when I go to shows around the world, I feel they take it like a party. They know, you know what I mean?
Yes, I understand what you mean. Very noisy people just talk, talk, talk.
Right. I honestly prefer Japanese wrestling. What is your, tell us about the venues in Japan. What are your favorite venues to go watch wrestling in? Obviously, you guys, you have wrestling everywhere.
Yes, well, in Osaka we have two main arenas. It's the Osaka Prefectural Gymnasium, which is there's two build there's a bottom building. It's a smaller gymnasium. There's one on the up floor. It's the main gymnasium, and usually they have all the big shows at the main gymnasium, and the house shows and the smaller indie shows at the smaller gymnasium.
Right.
And also there's a Osaka Joe Hall, which is next to Osaka Castle. That place, they had a lot of historical wrestling matches dating back to the early '80s with Choshu Riki versus Jumbo Tsuruta. They went 60-minute draw, time limit draw.
Yes. Is this the arena where they are held in New Japan holds Dominion and stuff?
Yes, they have Dominion, and they just held the New Beginning too this year.
Right. How often do you guys like have wrestling shows in Osaka? Obviously, in Tokyo, you have more than one show every day. How is it in Osaka? How often do you have wrestling shows?
Maybe three, 4 times a month, I think. But every month is different company coming. Sometimes it's All Japan, sometimes it's New Japan, sometimes it's the indie companies coming in and doing the shows. But indie companies they
And
do at a
tell
small
us, as you are
community
speaking different,
centers.
as you are speaking, like you guys have different promotions coming. Tell us about what are your favorite promotions going right now?
Right now, oh, that's a good question. I like All Japan. First, I would say All Japan, and second, maybe Big Japan because they have a mixture of a strong style and the hardcore wrestling, which is I find it very interesting. And third is probably New Japan because it's too popular, and I feel like it's not. It's becoming more Americanized in a way with the referee
I
bump
know
and
it,
the
yes.
interfere during the matches. I was like, New Japan. I'm not really that big fan of it right now with their style that's going on.
Right. And how about some, tell us about some of the names in Old Japan and Big Japan that you would recommend watching?
I
Because
like uh,
everybody,
I like Jake Lee in All Japan.
Jake
I
Lee,
met
right.
Yes, I met him. I actually have a story. I met him at a my friend runs a gym in Sapporo, Japan, which is the very northern part of Japan. He runs a MMA gym there, And one time I saw a tall. I was just visiting my friend, and I saw a tall guy coming in, and I asked him, "Wow, you're tall. Do you do some kind of sports?" And he like, "I used to be a professional wrestler." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "What?" Asked him, "What company do you wrestle for?" And he said, "Oh, Japan." And that's how we became friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
And I think Kento Miyahara is pretty famous as well in all
Oh
Japan.
yes, Miyahara is the number one wrestler in all Japan now. Everybody, he's the most popular wrestler on the roster.
How big is he like with the casual fans? Obviously, like I know, I'm sure, like for normal people who are not wrestling fans, everybody maybe they would know who's Okada or who's Naito is. Do you think Kento Miyahara he's well known to the casual people or just for the wrestling community?
I think just for the wrestling community because he doesn't like Okada and Naito and Tanahashi. They sometimes appear on the primetime television that doesn't have to do with wrestling. And Kento Miyahara, I haven't seen him done any primetime television appearances if it's comedy or variety shows.
Mm. Right, it makes sense because New Japan has bigger exposure. Obviously,
Yes.
their their stars will be everywhere on TV. Uh, are there any specific matches? Because like most of the people, they are into New Japan. What are some of the matches you would recommend, like to see from Big Japan and Old Japan or other promotions?
Oh, probably All Japan. If anybody likes the recent matches, I probably recommend the Suwama versus Kento Miyahara for the Triple Crown Championship. That was a great match, and I didn't expect Suwama to win that match. I thought Kento was gonna retain.
Wow,
And
yeah.
if you want to see some of the older stuff, I recommend any of the '90s and the '80s with Jumbo Tsuruta and the Giant Baba, and the four emperors of wrestling like Misawa, Taue, Kobashi, Akiyama, Kawada.
I know a lot of people they love this period of old Japan, as you say, with
Yes,
Misawa, Taue, and Misawa and Kobashi.
yes, and Kawada.
And yes, that's true. It was the strong style as it was.
Yes,
How about my favorite Japanese wrestler of all time is Jushin Thunder Liger. I love
Jushin
him.
Thunder Liger. Oh, he's great. Yes, I met
I
him several times in the United States, but he's always been a nice person to me when I see him.
He's pretty nice and he is in a
Yes,
pretty good shape. Like he has just retired and he went on top.
yeah. Now he
And
does
how about,
he does his own YouTube channel.
oh, he does.
Yes, he became a YouTuber now. He does fitness tips and cooking, how to cook, what kind of food he eats, and the training tips at home.
Right. That's awesome. When I was in Japan back in
Oh,
January, do you follow Stardom?
yes, I follow Stardom.
Actually, I wasn't following it, but I had a friend, his name is Kaz. He took me to Stardom show, and it was one of the most fun experiences I ever had. Like,
Oh, that's good.
it was very energetic show.
Yes,
Like the show itself, the layout, the setup. I didn't know the wrestlers, but those girls they kicked ass. It was a
yes, they
really.
do.
Tell us about Stardom a little bit. Who are some of the great wrestlers there and the women wrestling in Japan?
Well, women's wrestling in Japan, it goes back all the way. Probably the best time of the women's wrestling was back in the '80s with the Crash Gals, which is a Shigusa Nagayo and the Lioness Asuka. But nowadays in Stardom, the some of the popular wrestlers are like Mayu Iwatani, uh, Hana Kimura, and who's the other one? Oh, probably the Hayashishita Utami.
Right. And their show it has a cool vibe, like it's different and in a cool way.
Yes, and there's many
Uh,
factions too compared to like how New Japan has like three or four groups. Same with Stardom, they have three or four groups. It's a
that
heel, face, neutral. I don't know.
yeah, that's it's a really nice experience. We would recommend
Yes.
everybody like going to Japan to check Stardom.
Also, I think another company it's recently becoming popular is a DDT.
DDT, okay.
Yeah,
Tell us about it.
it's a how do you? It's like a comedy slash serious wrestling. You know, have like the it's like a dummy doll. It's called a Yoshishiko. It's like a plastic dummy doll, and they just wrestle with it. And
This is,
they
I
have
think,
an
where Kenny Omega and Sami
yeah
Zayn were wrestling in it, right? And Kota Ibushi.
yeah Kota Ibushi. Yeah, they all wrestled against the fake doll.
All
And
right.
another character is a Danshoku Dino. He's like a very homosexual character, and
Right.
whenever he sees like a random guy in the crowd, just goes up and kisses them.
Yeah. Does such, obviously it's a different type of wrestling, as you said, a lot of comedy, out
Yeah,
of the ordinary. Does it like anger some of the traditional wrestling fans in Japan? Would they say, "Oh, we hate this wrestling. This is not wrestling," or is it accepted by everybody?
that DDT. It's a very like it's a between some fans they're like, oh, I like this company. Some fans they say, oh, I don't like this company because it's too comedy. They don't take the matches seriously. But me, I think I find it funny, but I don't know if I want to go see it all of the time because sometimes it's too funny. I get worn out just by laughing and not watching the actual matches.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As we are speaking right now, the situation worldwide, like most of most of the businesses, they cannot run their business. What do you
Uh,
think? Will this situation, no wrestling shows, fans are not going, will change the wrestling scene in Japan? Do you think the future, how would it look? Would it be the same, or a lot of company would go out of business?
that is a very hard question right now because some companies like, for example, All Japan and Noah, they do that no TV show, that they do that no crowd matches, and they just stream it on their streaming services. But some other companies like Big Japan, for example, right now they're going through a crowd fund thing where they have to collect money from the fans to keep the company from closing down.
Yeah, because where I think wrestling started to be more popular when I was in Japan, you think this is a like it was starting to be hot as it was in the 90s, right?
Yes, starting to get back its peak again for the wrestling because it's nowadays. Even if I'm watching a regular TV show, they mention wrestlers like Tenryu or Choshu, like they mention them on TV because they're now like a celebrity type. They're considered like a celebrity even though they're not active wrestlers anymore.
That's true. And Stuba, hopefully the company can survive this situation and wrestling. Obviously, wrestling in Japan will always be there.
Yes, I hope so, and hopefully when the everything settles down, I'll go see a wrestling show again live because it makes me very happy going to a live show instead of sitting at home and watching it through TV.
Definitely. Tell us about your like other wrestling experiences outside Japan. Any specific shows like you want in the US?
I went to the CZW show in back in 2017, I think, the summer of 2017. Onita's first appearance in US over 30 years.
Wow.
And he did the barbed wire no rope explosion match. But the funny thing is, I think depending on some of the states have a very strict rule that they could use explosives or they can't use explosives. So what they did with the barbed wire baseball bat, they put firecrackers on it. So when you hit the opponent with the bat, poof, you hear the firecrackers going off. And we were all just standing. Me and my some of my friends they were like laughing like, "This is not a explosion. What is this? This is like a fireworks going off." It was very funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, and do you follow AEW or WWE? What are your thoughts on them?
I'm not a huge fan of AEW or WWE, but I think they're okay right now. But like same as Japan, they do no crowd matches and they just film and they show it through the TVs and streaming services. So I hope they'll also get back to having their fans back to going their shows again.
That that's true. On the ending note, Danny, just tell us about if like for people who are not like haven't seen Japanese wrestling before, tell us, recommend some matches or some wrestlers to get them into Japanese wrestling.
Oh, probably if you want to see good Japanese wrestling, I recommend you to watch matches like from Mitsuharu Misawa, Keiji Muto. Of course, you want to look at the legends. Look at Giant Baba, Jumbo Tsuruta, Tiger Mask, and Juicing Thunder Liger.
That, and how about some of the new stuff?
New stars like Kento Miyahara, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Jake Lee, Daisuke Sekimoto, and Shuji Ishikawa.
Right. And any other kaijin guys do you like non-Japanese and wrestling promotion?
Non-Japanese. Oh, I like I'm a fan of actually the Lance Archer, even though he's in AEW now.
Yes, he was awesome. He had a great run in G1, right?
I've known him personally for maybe about 15 years because I used to live in Texas, so I would see him at the local shows all the time. We would just talk and hang out and say hello. Very nice guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Does your dad still follow wrestling or did he stop watching it?
He doesn't watch it matches anymore, but he follows it like when he looks at the magazines, the Japanese wrestling magazines. If he comes over and visits, he looks at the magazines and she's like but he tells me, oh, it's not the same as anymore, but like how it was in the old days.
I'm
He
sure always the
prefers the old days than the current style of wrestling.
That's right. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, Danny.
It was
Thank
great
you
talking
very
to you.
much.
Thank you
And
for having me on
hopefully,
the show today.
yeah. Sorry, can you say that
Thank
again?
thank you for having me on your show today.
No, actually, it is a great pleasure. I wanted to have someone from Japan because Japan it has big history about wrestling, and it
Yeah.
was a great pleasure having you, my friend.
Thank you for having me on the show today. Hope to be back someday again.
Yes, we'll need to meet in Osaka.
Yes, come to Osaka. We'll hang out, go to a show together.
We will. Thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
Take care, my
Thank
friend.
you. Have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.